I want to invite you, if you will, to close your eyes for a moment and listen. Listen to the words from the Gospel according to John, which Unity teaches as the gospel of the cosmic or the universal Christ. In the beginning was the Christ, and the Christ was with God, and the Christ was God in the beginning. And the Christ became flesh. And the Christ dwells among us. The Christ dwells within us. Not one thing came into being except through the Christ. The Christ was in the beginning. And then later, in the Gospel of John, as the Master Teacher Jesus is speaking, we think of the Master Teacher Jesus in the Gospel of John especially speaking not from the personality of Jesus, but from the consciousness of the Christ, the indwelling light, the indwelling presence of the Christ. I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. I am in you, and you are in me. As I am in the Father, you are in me. Feel the energy of that light. The only begotten idea in the mind of the divine, the mind of God, for you and me and all creation is light. The light of the Christ. The light that we in unity call the Christ, which was in the beginning. And it is that Christ that is that which has become flesh in you and me and all creation. So breathe into that. Feel the energy of that. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. In unity, we talk about the Christ as a potential and a possibility for all of us. It is a possibility and is a potential that we can awaken to and live just as the Master Teacher Jesus lived it. It is a latent potential and possibility within most of us. We haven't fully awakened to that. But Advent is a time of reawakening to that truth. We can allow Advent to be a time of reawakening to that truth. To stay awake to that truth. And to begin more fully and completely to live that truth in the world. And some of us might say, well, my life is pretty good. Why do I want to go deeper into my spirituality? Why would I want to do that? Why do I really want to know who I am? I have what I need. I have what I want. If most of us are honest with ourselves on the physical plane, I have those things. Why do I want to go deeper into knowing who I truly am? Why do I want to reveal that to myself and to the world? And I believe we want to reveal that to ourselves and to the world because in doing that, we become the hope for the world. In fact, I think that's the only hope for the world. That you and I awaken. In our teaching, we don't teach that Jesus came to save the world. We teach that Jesus came to teach us that we are here to save the world. We are here to be the light in the world. Did not he say, "You are the light of the world, just as I am"? Did he also not say that the things that I do, you will do, and even greater than these things will you do? Do we believe that? What are those greater things that we are here to do? Maybe we don't yet know. But I think Advent is such a precious opportunity, if we allow it to be, for us to be awake to the indwelling presence of that light within us. Because not only does it transform our lives, but it transforms the lives of others and the planet. Because when we know our unity, our oneness, we begin to act like it. We begin to respect each other, treat each other with love and kindness, acknowledge each other even when we see each other on the streets. And so, I think that's how I want to approach Advent this year, again, is awakening and staying awake to that divine nature within us to be revealed to the world. And how does faith play into that? How does the power of faith expresses that? Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity, through his own discernment, his own prayer and meditation time, his own discernment, but also I know that he studied many other traditions. He studied the Eastern traditions. And so as part of all of his learning, all of the intelligence he gathered from the external, but also the intelligence that he gathered, the wisdom that he gathered from his own seeking, he came up with these 12 powers of humankind that he calls the 12 powers. And the way I like to think about those 12 powers is that they are all aspects of the Christ consciousness. All aspects of the Christ consciousness. He teaches about that. He even says that each of the 12 disciples represented one of those 12 powers. I love this image. I wish I had put it up there on the screen for you, but an image of a diamond that is shining forth this light. Just imagine that you are the diamond. You are a diamond, a multifaceted gem, precious, beautiful gem. And there's this light, the Christ light, that is shining from the center of your beingness, your diamond. And that light is then refracted into all these different colors and frequencies. And that is the way I like to look at the 12 powers. They're aspects of the Christ that are shining through us always, and yet it doesn't always just happen. We get to take responsibility for what we do with those powers. How are we going to use those powers? And faith is one of those powers. Faith is one of those attributes that we already have. It's just that we may not be receiving it, and we may not be using it to the best of our ability. So I want to talk a little bit about faith as a power, as an aspect of our divinity, our divine nature. And I want to talk about it in as respects our awakening to the Christ within us, to the light within us, that who we truly are. And so faith when we activate the power of faith, first of all, I have to come down here. First of all, do you even believe that you have the possibility and the potential to be the Christ in the world? If you do, stand up. All right, so you have already made a statement of faith. I believe that I have the potential and the possibility to be the Christ in the world. So that's your first statement of faith. Can you even say aloud, I am the Christ expressing here and now. If you don't want to say it, don't, but if you do, claim it. I am the Christ expressing here and now. So it is. You can be seated. That is the first element of faith. Being willing to have the perspective that you have the potential. That you have the potential, that you claim that you have the potential to be the Christ in the world. You all did it. If you weren't quite ready to do it, think about it. Use the power of the faith that you have, the faith that you are, to claim that I am the Christ. Or if you're not yet ready to do that, I am the potential of the Christ expressing in the world right here and right now. That is the first element of faith. The second element of faith is conviction. Conviction. Assurance, as Paul said, faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the evidence of the things that are not seen. That's a very powerful statement. The assurance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. The conviction, the assurance of that. Sometimes when I'm out in the world living daily life, I don't always act like the Christ. I know that's surprising to some of you, especially Deborah. I didn't mean to fall off the pedestal so soon. She's taking it all back. She's retracting all of that. And sometimes I lose sight of that. But the conviction is, the assurance is, even if I don't necessarily see it in me at the moment, the unseen, the things that are hoped for, I hope and I pray that I will embrace and live and be the Christ in the world, and I am convinced that that is a possibility. And even if I don't see the evidence of it all the time, I can still have the conviction of it. Right? I can still know it. The other aspect of that is, how will I say this? Going out in the world, I don't always see it in you. Oh my gosh. But what I know about that is if I don't see it in me, I can't see it in you, right? So it always comes back to me. But there again, it's my opportunity to stop and to remember that you are the Christ expressing in the world. And it's my opportunity to look for the evidence of it. Even if in my current state of mind I don't see it, I don't care who you are. You are the Christ expressing in the world, even if I have a hard time seeing it. But it's my opportunity to stop and see it anyway. That is the power of conviction. To be able to see the Christ expressing everywhere. Not just in the people or the places or the situations that we like. And believe me, that will change the world probably more powerfully than any other thing we can do. To behold the Christ in us, to behold the Christ in each other. Why is that so important? As I said earlier, it's important because it affects the way we treat each other. And as I said before, Jesus didn't come to save the world. He came to teach you that you are here to save the world. And we can only do that by being the light. And part of that is beholding that Christ in each other. And the other part of faith that I think is so important for us to hold on to is that idea of joyous anticipation or expectancy. See, faith is a state of mind. It's a state of heart. And it doesn't just happen. I would love it if it just happened. But it takes our willingness and our commitment to exercise our power of faith. To be willing to claim, I am that. To be willing to claim, you are that. And to be willing to get into that mindset of joyous anticipation. How is it going to show up today? How am I going to show up today as the Christ expressing in the world? I know I'm that. I know it's possible. I'm convinced that I can do it. How is it going to show up? How am I going to show up? It's about choosing to look through those eyes and to see, how is the Christ going to show up in my world today? And we can all do it. We can all do it. We can get up in the morning and say to ourselves, I am the Christ expressing right here and right now. So is everyone else and everything else. And how can I be awake to all the ways that's going to prove itself to me today? So we get to set an intention to look for it. Have you noticed? It's a very simple example, but have you noticed when you start thinking about something, you see it all around you? Just recently, Jay has started a furniture store business, and we've been looking at vehicles, to transport furniture. I never noticed how many vehicles there are out there that are used for that purpose. How many different brands, but I see them everywhere I go now. It's not because they weren't there, but it's because my mind is focused on that. Do you see? So that's the power we have. That's the power that we have to exercise our faith. Claim it. Choose to see it. Set an intention to see it. So I want to invite you to do something else for me. Stand up again, if you will, and if you're willing and able. Okay, we're going to set an intention. We're going to claim it once again. I am the Christ expressing right here and right now. If you're willing to say it, let's say it. I am the Christ expressing right here and right now. Second part, Turn to somebody around you and say, "You are the Christ," expressing right here and right now. Let's do that together. Okay, thank you. And now I want you to say, "I choose to behold the Christ." Well, let me see, how am I going to say this? I set my mind to seeing the Christ everywhere I look. How about that? I set my mind to see the Christ everywhere I look. Now, don't you feel more awake to the Christ than you were when you came in today? So I invite you, as you go through Advent season, to stay awake. Stay awake to the Christ you are. Stay awake to the Christ each other is. And stay awake to all the ways the Christ makes itself known in your world. Thank you for this morning. Please be seated.